candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, is not done with his campaign in Lagos. Today, he continued his campaign to markets and reaching out to men and women in Lagos State at these markets to rally for support. He visited a computer village where traders turned out in their numbers to receive him. Some of the traders who are interacting with Channels TV say they are supporting him because they know where the shoe pinch. He knows where the shoe pinches and appears able to provide succor. Mr. Peter Obi will be our guest tonight on the program. And now we'll be speaking with Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, who joins us live from Ikoyi area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Obi. Your Excellency, I appreciate your time for us tonight. And it does look to me that your business in Lagos from Saturday was not quite done as you went back to Lagos, specifically now to some markets. You were at the Alaba International Market on Saturday. Today you were at the Computer Village, and you also went to the Ladipo Market. These are major markets in Lagos. Was there any reason why you chose these markets, or the reasons why you went back to Lagos? I'm not sure you've had any rally across the country where you focused on one state for 2 consecutive days or 2 days.
Well, sir, you've not been following me. I've campaigned in every state of Nigeria. I've visited every state of Nigeria, 36 states, and the capital territory, Abuja, so you can say 37. And I've gone to some states twice, thrice. I was in Borno, Maiduguri. I was in Borno South, Biu, which nobody have ever been to. I was in Gombe, and I was in Gombe South, Katungu. I was in Kaduna, and I was in Kaduna South. I was in Adamawa. I went to Mubi. I went to Numan, and I went back to Numan just on Saturday. So, quite frankly, there's so many other places that I've been to wires and tries, and they will continue like that. But my reason for going to the markets are very simple. I've always said we need to be able to go back from consumption to production. And you can't talk about doing that without having routes to market, where the markets are functional and everything. And I need to interact with traders and business people. I've been visiting industrialists, agriculturalists, and everything, learning what are their problems, and being able to promise them of better times to come.
Interesting. Is there anything in particular that you have called yourself a trader? But I mean, you perhaps know, since you say you're a trader, you perhaps know the circumstances around trading in Nigeria. And when you visit these markets, there are communities of people who are interested in commerce and small and medium scale enterprises. Is there anything in particular that you have in plan, part of your manifesto agenda, should you be elected as Nigeria's next president, for these medium scale and small scale businesses?
So the greatest employer of labor, the greatest productive area in any economy I've studied is micro, small, medium enterprises. You can go and take a study from various countries, even in first world countries, talk less of third world countries. The countries that the people use as exemplary today, and I always go for the ones with big numbers, from China to India to Indonesia, all of them are their economy are all driven by this sector. In a country like Indonesia, almost over 90% of the businesses are in this sector. In terms of employment, they are creating over 70% of the employment. In China, over 60%. In terms of productive exports, everything, in China, over 60%. Indonesia, the same thing. Similar situation in Vietnam. These are countries that are doing very well today and are very productive and export geared. So I believe that you need to study, listen to this section, because they will propel what we want to achieve. And for me, the commitment is to pull people out of poverty that is measurable. What governments in Nigeria have not done in the past is to look at when they come in, where they're standing. For example, in 2012, our unemployment is about 10%, between 10 and 12%. Today it's 33, 35.
So, I mean,
our monetary poverty was 55 million, 33%. Today is about 40-something% at 95 million. Of course, our multidimensional poverty has then increased to 133 million. So these are things you need to say, if in 2023 a new government comes in, we need to draw a line. This is where we stand. And start implementing those things you think that can start reversing the situation and reducing something like our poverty, unemployment, inflation, in an organized, measurable way that people can feel it.
Mr. Obi, I'd like to know, with your experience trading and some of the figures you have reeled out tonight, I know there are loads and loads of markets and commercial hubs across the country. In your own Anambra State, your home state, you have the Onitsha, which is a major market. You also have another one where your brother, Senator Uba, is from. His own village or town also is a major market. Now, you go to Area Market, Aba Market in Abia State. These are major commercial hubs. And to Lagos, Alaba International Market, Ladipo, Spare Parts, Computer Village, where almost every solution or almost every problem to your tech problems can be resolved at the Computer Village. But most of these markets are not standardized in terms of the trade and the manner in which they engage their consumers, and perhaps the opportunity to even export. Now, I was reading earlier the possibility of Jamaica even taking cars from Innocent Motors in Anambra State to Jamaica. This is some good news. Is there any plan that you're thinking that all of these markets will be standardized and to be ready for international trade of some sort?
So, it is the government. It is the physical support of the government that makes it possible for this, not markets, but the micro, small businesses I mentioned, to be able. I've said what we're going to do when we talk about moving from consumption to production. I said we will ensure first that we deal with the issue of security of life and property. By securing the country, we will be able to take back our farmers back to farm, increase the agricultural production, because our food lands that are not producing today, with that will supply our industry and make them export oriented. And that comes where you're going to take this market by ensuring that what they are producing in terms of manufacturing and everything is export oriented. For example, I was in Aba last Friday, and I did mention to them that in 2021, our oil exports, for me, is an average of about 15 billion. I don't have the accurate number. But that in the same year, Vietnam exported footwear of more than that figure. It's about 17, 18 billion. And in Aba, we have about 60,000 of footwear makers, shoemakers. And they're just 30 to 50 kilometers away from the sea in Port Harcourt. And I'll support them, give them access to export. This is critical. We have in the same Aba area people who are involved in tailoring and all sorts of clothing, garments manufacturing. And both Vietnam and Bangladesh exported clothing more than the entire Nigerian export in 2021. Our entire export in 2021 was 18.9 trillion naira. Vietnam did about 32 billion worth of clothing exports. Bangladesh was about 36,000. If you divide our 18.9 trillion naira with 650, by this I put an average of your official rate and your black market rate, and do some arithmetic, which I say is the average rate I can give it. If you divide it by that, my average rate, it comes about $30 billion. That's what your entire export is. So both countries did more in clothing than your entire export. And you have so many people who can be involved in that section of trade for export. Imagine if we're able to earn such money in export today. Imagine if we can increase our footwear export. Imagine if we can do more on agricultural export, food export and everything. Shehu, by the time you combine and support it with your oil and gas export, you will increase your reserve, which will drive your rates. You'll be able to bring this rate we're talking about from the size of today to a manageable level. And there will be foreign exchange available for inputs, machineries, and other areas which will help to expand our economy.
Let me take on a few issues. I'll come back to the issue of the economy because there's so much to talk about that, and even the security, human capital development. When you went to Lagos for the rally on Saturday, your critics and the opposition came out to criticize your inability to visit the traditional rulership in Lagos, and they have drawn a lot of inferences on that issue. Was there any reason why you are unable to visit them, just like is almost customary that when presidential candidates are going to major cities, they go and first pay homage to traditional rulership in those communities? What exactly is the true picture of things?
Sharon, I've lived in Lagos for a long time, and everybody knows that I have the utmost respect for Oba of Lagos, and I've always done so to every other traditional rulers. My royal fathers have, for me, they are my fathers, and I respect them. Wherever I go for rallies, I've been to 36 states of the Federation. it is usually the local people that organize our rally and tell us where to go. And everybody knows that on my arrival in Lagos, I did ask that I want to visit the Oba, whom I regard as a father figure anytime, anywhere, you know. And this is not the only place it happened. I've been to a few states where the emir, the obi, or the Oba was not readily available. So mine is to apply to visit them on a new date. This is not the only place. But you know, people, when they're looking for you or they want to go, they try to capitalize in one way or the other. Some people said, oh, like he refused to see me or didn't want to see. It's not true. The truth is that when we arrived, we wanted to do what we used to do, arrive and drive to the palace and see the Oba or the Emir, and we're told he is not readily available, you know, that we should apply and come at some other date. And that we intend to do because he remains a highly respected father to me and to the entire nation. And I will do. So there's no issue with that.
So if I get it clearly, Mr. Obi, were you able to personally reach out, or are you willing to do that, to reach out to make this clear to the traditional institution in Lagos?
I will do that. I will do that. Shame, I said it's not the only place. There's other states we have visited that we are not able to see the traditional ruler. There's so many places. Even when I visited Imo, you know, I've not been able to see the traditional rulers in Imo State. So I can tell you there's so many places in the north that I went, the emir was not readily available, you know, and we are not, it is not an issue.
Okay, so let's take a breather, Mr. Obi, because so much more to talk about. Some violence that escalated in Lagos rally. What do you know? What can you tell us? And how is this going to be nipped in the bud ahead of the election? What are your fears about this poll, the meeting that I held today with INEC, and some of the news that are coming from it? I'd like to get your reactions to some of these issues, plus your manifesto and your plan for the people of Nigeria, as the race is now 11 days away. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back in a moment. Many thanks, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. We continue our conversation now with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, who has been speaking with us live from Ikoyi area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your time tonight. Something that wasn't very pleasant happened in Lagos on Saturday, where we saw some of your supporters being attacked. Give us an understanding of what happened. Have you taken that matter up? What really went on? What is the casualty level? What are you hearing? What did you tell the authorities?
Well, Sean, I left that. I've expressed my concern, which I'm sure you've read, and I've appealed to all that are involved. Let's have very peaceful campaigning, peaceful election. Our desperation should be on how we can get Nigeria working for all Nigerians, especially the poor, suffering masses, and not for us to be desperate about continuing with our transactional politics, but desperation on how we can start turning around the suffering of Nigerians. Our party, Labour Party, have taken that on, reported it, while appealing that such should not continue.
So, staying with what happened in Lagos, there were peace accord and signing agreement with the peace committee that politicians and political parties will conduct themselves in a very peaceful manner. What is the implication of what happened in Lagos? We've seen some of these things also happen in some other states. What are your biggest fears about these kind of violence that happened? Much of those verbal violence are happening on social media, but it seems to have gotten out of the social media on the streets of Nigeria. What are the implications and what is your biggest concern about this?
So for me, even the verbal ones on social media should not be there. We don't need to have any form of abuse or accusation, false accusations, anything. For me, it should not exist. Physical or verbal, social media or otherwise, we should have election that is based on issues, campaign that is based on issues, discussing our problems. Nigeria have huge, enormous problems that are besetting it that we should occupy our campaigns with. You can't have a situation where you're the poverty capital of the world, one of the most insecure places on the surface of the earth. Your primary health care have collapsed. You're now 168 out of 170 something or 178 on WHO medical WHO health numbering. So there's so much we can talk about. There's so much that should be a problem. Our human capital is very low and everything. Your youths are every day looking for a way to leave the country because of sense of hopelessness and everything. So these are things that should worry us. Not the issue of any form of verbal attack or physical attack, anything. I urge those who are my supporters, please do not engage in that. And I plead with other contestants to please plead with their supporters and those who are working for them to this and that. We have a huge problem. Let's deal with it. All I want is to get Nigeria to start working again for everybody.
I'll take you up on this your Lagos trip, and also you went visiting the Are Ona Kakanfo of Yoruba land, Gani Adams, where you told him about your plan of uniting Nigeria, and you made promise of restructuring. Some of your allies and some of your friends who are campaigning for you, like the Middle Belt Forum, Afenifere, the PANDEF, these are some of the proponents of restructuring in Nigeria. The manner of their own approach to the issue of restructuring, because by definition, restructuring now means different things to different people. If you look at the radical approach, the likes of Chief Adebanjo has preached about the issue of restructuring when he said, not only when Nigeria has been properly restructured before we can get the kind of the desired development. What do you mean? What is the Peter Obi's concept of restructuring? And if you really mean it, how soon or how fast are you hoping to get down to the ground and get this issue of restructuring working? Should he be elected president?
So Nigeria is already Federal Republic of Nigeria. So you first need to have true federalism, as is being practiced in other nations of the world. When we talk about the issue of restructuring, we're talking about trying to, this is not going to be something that I'm going to do by presidential fiat or this. It is something that we all need to sit down and talk and go through the process of rule of law in doing that. But I can assure you, we need to restructure. We all have factor endowment that will make the country work. Some of those who are even against restructuring, or even have fear of restructuring, will benefit more. For example, I've always said it consistently, the biggest physical assets of Nigeria is uncultivated land in the north. We can make more money, far more money than we earn from oil or gas from agriculture, if we do the right things. We say we live on 923,000 square kilometers of land, which the vast land, arable land, are in the north. And we're 200 million people. Tiny country like Netherlands that have just live on, without water, lives on 33,000 square kilometers of land, which if we were to donate land to them, minority from Nigeria, we remove 33,000 from our 923, so we will still have 890,000 left. If we were to give them, even human beings, they are 17.4 million in population, and we are about 220 actually. So we give them, we still have 200 million people left. The agricultural export in 2021 is 103 billion euros, about $120 billion. That is 4 times our entire export when you divide 18.9 trillion by 650 naira, because your parallel market today is about 750. So you find out that it's 3 times your entire export. And you have that vast land that is uncultivated. So for me, that vast land can give us far more than we're earning from oil today, and cultivating it is something that I'm focused on. I want to put people out of poverty, especially in the north, by ensuring that we put in the resources that will ensure that that vast land is cultivated. First, that will feed ourselves, which will drive down our inflation, because the worst contributor to our inflation today is food inflation. 2, will lead to manufacturing and lead to export, which will in turn, like I said before, increase our reserve and drive down our rate of exchange. These are things, restructuring will come. Then those from Niger Delta today will be able to use the resources that we're going to generate from further production of oil and gas area to be able to develop, clean up the environment, bring them back to agricultural and other food productive areas like fishing and everything. There's quite a lot we can do if we do the right things. So I keep saying that.
If I may quickly jump in and ask you, Mr. Obi, there is the 2014 confab. What would you do with that report? Are you going to consider it at all? If you're not, are you considering, because you're talking about unity, on what forum are you going to have a unity conversation should you win the election?
I tell you, I'm going to bring everybody to the table. When I talk about uniting the country, you need to give everybody a sense of belonging. Serve them by ensuring justice, fairness, equity, and everybody being involved. We're going to sit down with everybody, including agitators and everybody, to discuss. And that's why I'm visiting everybody and telling them, let's unite. I look forward to serving in a Nigeria where few years after, no Nigerian will ever say, I'm from the north, east, or west. But we're proud to say, I'm a Nigerian. We must have a Nigeria where Nigerians want to celebrate Nigeria. And that's why we've selected a strong team where the three most critical persons in our party and candidacy are all of us are people born after the independence.
So let me take you up quickly. I'd like you to clarify a few of these issues. There is this issue of 2 billion naira to clergies. What do you have to say to respond to these controversies?
Shehu, you know me very well. I don't even have 2 billion naira. Talk less of giving anybody 2 billion naira. What am I giving them 2 billion for? They are clergies. They should be praying for the country. They don't need money to pray. I haven't even, everybody knows me and the church and everything. So I believe that the clergies also have a problem. Their followers are suffering. So they want good governance. Why will I give them money? They should give me money to be able to support me in terms of being able to run around for my campaigns and everything, because my going around for campaigns, I have to pay for transport, I have to pay for this. So if anything, the clergies, I expect them to give me money, not the other way around. See, I've never knowingly gone to any clergy. I can comfortably tell you that I've never given any clergy. I've never given 1 naira to CAN. Not 1 naira. And if anybody can trace 1 naira given by Peter Obi to CAN, I'll stop running. I can't. Say I have an allergy for money being wrongly spent. I can't give people who are supposed to be paying money for what? They should be the one to do that, because their job is very simple. They need to pray for a better governed Nigeria. They need to pray for a new Nigeria.
All right. Let me take you here to another quickly, because I have a whole lot to ask you. Did you hear, it's been in the news, that some leaders of the Labour Party in the Southwest have since dumped the Labour Party and support for you. And this is what is said in the news today, quote, Peter Obi lacks the clout to win. How do you react to this? Or how does it?
So, we are not talking about this brand of politics is politics of yesterday. So I don't want to be trapped in process of yesterday. Those who think about yesterday and today will miss tomorrow. So I'm committed to a new Nigeria. That new Nigeria is not Nigeria where you do all sorts of gimmicks that are practiced yesterday. I'm talking about, let's discuss what will take Nigeria out of its present predicament, not issues of yesterday. This is the politics of yesterday. It's a transactional politics. I'm not in transactional politics. I'm not in it where you have to carry people or do this. I'm talking about, what do we do to build a better Nigeria, where the young youths of Nigeria will be gainfully employment. So our unemployment, I told you, have moved from 10-point-something% in 2012 to over 30%. That is 300 times. So we have a country where our debt in 2012 is about 10 trillion. Today is 44. If you add ways and means, it's almost 70-something trillion. That should be what is worrying us. Not that one Mr. Obi from Oka or so somebody from here have left the party and joined another party. Anybody can join anything he wants to do. I'm concerned about, how do we save the country? Our ways and means as of 2012 is under 1 trillion. Today it's over 23. And Shehu, you're talking about people saying Obi has the clout. Which clout?
So again, let me go in that same trajectory. It does look like some of these things are perhaps testing the resolve of your campaign and the trajectory of your campaign council. For example, we're hearing that some labor union in Kano have collapsed their structure. We understand that early in the day that the labor, the NLC and its other labor sister organization are working for the Labour Party, but it does look in one or two states they already are leaving the Labour Party and working for other political parties. How does this come with you? There is another leadership of the NLC. You were talking with the NLC leadership under Ayuba Waba. What has happened to the Nigeria Labour Congress and the TUC support which you got? Has that gone into the wind right now?
So if there's anybody if there's one group of people who are at the, call it, who are suffering most in all this, the labor, in terms of TUC, NLC, are all part of it. So my concentration is, my desperation is a Nigerian that is working for all. A Nigerian where things are today. So your country does not have strong disposable, or call it local middle class that can afford to say they exist. The demand, local demand, is weak because of inflation, because of unemployment, because of this. This is what should be worrying everybody. I've looked at various sectors. This morning I was discussing with somebody. Woman said, in Nigeria, despite that the road is not safe, so people don't travel by road any longer because of safety, that even our flight passenger volume is still under 10% of our population. And they are repeat passengers. So the numbers of, so we have less than 18 million traveling by air. And I compared it with some other countries like Brazil, and the number is over 50%. So, Shehu, I'm looking at the economy. I want us to put people out of poverty. I want the country to work. Not looking at all this, oh, maybe this person supports me or that person supports me here. What are we going to do to pull people out of poverty? That is my preoccupation. What are we going to do to ensure that out of school children, those people, especially in the north, who have not had the opportunity of going to school, who have learned Quran, how can we meet them at the point where they're learning Quran and teach them skills so they can be employed? How do we ensure that all those industries in Bompai, in Sheridan 1, in Kanu, Sheridan 2, 3 that have collapsed come back alive? How do we ensure that all the companies that are collapsing in Lagos come back to life? How do we ensure that we develop our ports to be more efficient and not contribute in businesses collapsing? rather become more efficient and a tool for business upgrade, for creating more jobs, because we're going to have transshipments through our ports. We're going to have, through our airports. We're in the middle of Africa. How are we going to become a transshipment and hub of both air and sea? These are things that should be worrying us. Not that, I said it again, that Shehu left PDP or APC or Labour and joined TYZ. Whatever you want to go, Shehu, you're free to go there.
Mr. Obi, I had an interview recently with the presidential candidate of the NNPP, Senator Robbie Kunkunso, who, in his own view, he sees you as someone who doesn't have a base and you don't have the kind of structure that can win election. All of the ideas that you're talking about tonight, or you've been talking to your supporters about, can only come to fruition if they give you the opportunity to be Nigeria's next president. And you have been described by your opponent as a social media favorite, and that your supporters are in the air and not on the ground. A lot of your supporters and those who have not made up their minds tonight are watching. How do you convince them that you have the kind of structure or what it takes to win this election? You have been saying that you have been said that you will come a distant third. Your opponent said you might come fourth. These are some of the permutations. What are you reading? What gives you the assurance that you can win this election, Mr. Obi?
Sean, when you started your program this evening, you said that Peter Obi visited the market and people came out in their numbers. And you saw the numbers. The numbers are physical. When I started, they said the 4 people tweeting in a room. Now they're saying, I don't have the structure, I don't have the number. The numbers will be determined by the voters. My biggest structure, I've said it, is the Almighty God, followed by the people of Nigeria, whom I'm pleading with, let's build a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible. And I'm committed to it. And I've said, hold Dati, Baba Ahmed, and Peter be responsible for that new Nigeria, where Nigeria will be secured, Nigeria will be united, Nigeria will move from consumption to production, where there will be rule of law, a greater environment that will attract investment, where we'll fight corruption to its minimum, because 2 of us are coming from a background where there's a consistency in the past, there's a track record.
Mr. Obi, what is your own view, or how do you situate things? This is one of the things that has been said about you. When you promise and you are said, you come out to say, look, hold me responsible. I'm going to turn around this country. And you've been criticized. There was the interview I had with the former governor of Lagos State. Amongst those who are running for president, who are in the front running, yourself, the NNPP presidential candidate, the APC presidential candidate, you are former governors, 2-term governors. Now, and in that sense, Mr. Fashola was saying, making reference that it was only Tinubu that has a record or track record that is being copied by other states. Now, when you said that you were going to turn things around, there are those of your opponents who have criticized you to say, look, Mr. Obi may not have a full understanding of the workings of the federal government, that things are more complicated than he thinks, and you have promised that things will not be as usual. You will change things. How difficult have you learned that things are in the federal government or running the nation or being a Nigeria's president? Are you hoping that there might be some surprises that you get into office to learn?
I don't think there's any surprises. I don't think there's anything that's complicated. I don't think so. That was what they were telling me when I was going to be governor, they said, oh, you've never governed before. You've never been a civil servant. You don't know how civil servants work. Civil servants are the most difficult people to work. Civil servants are thieves, teachers are this and everything. I can tell you, Sharon, I worked for them for 8 years. I do not see all those things they are being accused of and anything. They became partners in progress. It was, for example, let me use education. Sharon, despite the fact that I started in 2006, which was 6 years clear from the time Millennium Development Goals started. By the time it was concluded in 2015, we were #1. And I started late. And that was the only measure of development within the said period that I was in government. Anambra State was #1 in Millennium Development Goals. We're #1 in education. We did a lot of work, good work in health and in pulling people out of poverty. And you can go and ask people like Dr. Magnus Buckle that was in charge of pulling people out of poverty. So I don't see anything when people say this. I don't know where the surprise is going to come from. The only surprise for me is surprise that we're going to do things that people won't believe. It's possible. We're going to surprise people. That's the only surprise. The only surprise is pulling people out of poverty that people think is impossible. Managing our resources more efficiently. The only surprise is that we shut down corruption. The surprises we're going to spring up with, but not surprises of the country worsening. It will be surprise of the country progressing.
We are just about 60 seconds to our next break, Mr. Peter Obi. I know you are in this race and you want to win it. There are those who believe that you may not have what it takes to win it now. If you think that you can win it, with what margin, what are you saying? What is your mathematics and what is your calculation telling you tonight?
Well, Sharon, I've offered myself to Nigerians. You know, I'm not predicting anything. I've offered myself. I'm convinced that I remain in this race, that Dati and I are committed to a new Nigeria. And we're telling Nigerians, join us, let's build this new Nigeria that everybody will be proud of. Let us for the first time have a non-transactional government where those who are in government, those who are serving, are there to serve the nation, where public resources will be used for public good, where there will be rule of law, where there will be respect for everybody, where there will be justice, fairness, where there will be equity, inclusiveness, and all sections of Nigeria will be involved. Let's start building this in Nigeria. Preaching. It is important. We want a government of the youths and women that works for all. And that's what I'm preaching. That's what I'm begging every day.
Okay, Mr. Obi, please stay with me. We need to go on another break. And when we return, we'll be having our closing moment with you. A few more questions for you, albeit it's going to be a very short one. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll be right back in another few minutes, everyone. Thank you everyone for staying with us. Let's get back to our conversation with Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Apologies, Mr. Obi. I know you're pressed for an appointment. We just have a few minutes left. Just pardon me, and we'll wrap up quickly. Just in our closing moment with you, poll after poll, it has been in your favor. How are you convincing your supporters not to get carried away?
Sharon, my commitment to this election, I've said it repeatedly, is to build a new Nigeria. I'm not the one conducting those polls. They're being conducted by reputable organizations. And now I'm telling my people that our commitment should be on our focus of a new Nigeria. The only way poll I look forward to is Nigerians going out in their numbers, peacefully voting, ensuring that this election is free, fair, and credible, and that all of us come together in love and start building a new Nigeria. So I look forward to a Nigeria where people will say, I'm a Nigerian. Where we'll go out holding each other together in love. In sports, if there's World Cup, Nigeria is involved. In area of entertainment, that our young people who are involved in are doing very well. In areas of manufacturing, export, everything, the Nigerians start living a life that shows that we build a Nigeria who take its pride of place in Committee of Nations, attending meetings as members of G20 or G20, whatever it is, and be glad that this is our country. I look forward to that. That is when I will be happy with the polls.
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Obi, for your time tonight. I know that you need to run for your appointment this evening. Thank you indeed for speaking to Nigerians
on
this platform. I appreciate it.